everyone, and welcome back to Canada Top to Bottom. If you are seriously thinking about moving to Canada, it's likely that you might have been keeping a close eye on Canadian immigration over the last few years. We certainly have. There has never been a busier time with regards to immigrating to Canada in the aftermath of the pandemic and the massive clean-up process to try and reduce the backlogs. So, for those of you who are interested in what's going on right now, here is some up-to-date information on processing times and Canadian immigration in general.
Okay, so let's start with the number of immigrants arriving in Canada in 2022. Last year, the IRCC announced some very bold targets, intending to admit over 400,000 new permanent residents into the country each year and growing each year. This seemed extremely ambitious, but it was recently announced that Canada is well on track so far this year as they plan on welcoming 431,000 new immigrants by the end of 2022. As of the end of August this year, over 300,000 new permanent residents have landed in Canada this year. That's almost 3/4 of their annual target in just 8 months.
Out of interest, the top 5 countries of citizenship which have seen the most amount of new arrivals to Canada are India, China, the Philippines, Afghanistan and Nigeria, with a whopping 68,000 Chinese nationals becoming new Canadian permanent residents since January this year.
It's hardly surprising that the vast majority of newcomers to Canada choose to settle in Ontario, followed a long way behind by British Columbia, Quebec and Alberta. 11 of Canada's 12 largest cities are located in these provinces, and indeed there are only 6 cities within them to have a population of more than 1 million. Ontario is home to Toronto, by far Canada's largest city, with 2 million more people than Montreal, which comes in a distant second place. Bigger cities mean more jobs available and better employment prospects, especially for those in the tech world over the last few years.
In the next 8 years, it is predicted that more than 9 million Canadians are going to retire. And with Canada being a country with an extremely low birth rate, it is easy to see why the country is placing such a big emphasis on immigration. Immigrants are very much needed in Canada to address the labour shortage caused not only by the pandemic, but also in anticipation of the huge number of workers retiring in the years to come. The target for the year 2024 is to admit 450,000 new permanent residents into Canada, almost 500,000 people in a year. So there has never been a better time to look at moving to Canada.
Due to the extremely long break in express entry draws over the last few years, the CRS cut-off score was at an all-time high and remains very high 2 months into the resumption of draws. But this score of over 500 CRS points is not sustainable, and for those waiting in the pool and losing hope, rest assured that this score must and will come down. The number of people being offered an invitation to apply after each draw is increasing, and with that the cut-off score will start to decrease. It is in the best interest of the country to bring more people into Canada, which is why the IRCC have hired over 1,000 new staff, and more immigration pathways are opening up all the time, especially provinces through their nominee programs, which are targeting those with specific skills and experience.
So now let's talk about the current processing times for immigration applications. This is something we personally must have checked several thousand times over the course of our application being processed, and it was beyond frustrating that the website never changed. It was never updated, and it continued to state it was 6 months, even after we'd been waiting more than 20 months.
Maybe enough angry people complained and their voices were finally heard, because processing times are now being updated monthly on the IRCC website. One small positive that has come out of the last few years. They are also providing regular updates on how they plan to reduce backlogs and projected processing times for the upcoming months. Now, although the processing times are still horrifyingly long, for many it will at least provide them with something to work with. If you know for sure you'll be waiting another 18 months, you can plan your life rather than waiting in the awful limbo so many people have been in over the last few years. You can see a summary of the current application backlogs and the predictions for the coming months by clicking on the link in the description box below.
There are currently almost 2.5 million applications waiting to be processed, more than half of which are over the standard waiting time for that application. The backlogs are slowly reducing, but I guess with a backlog that big, it's going to be a slow process whatever you do. The IRCC has predicted that by the end of 2022, they will have reduced the backlog so significantly that they will be back to the pre-pandemic goal of processing 80% of federal skilled worker applications within 6 months of submission. Right now, with only 3 months to go until the end of the year, it seems ambitious, but these are their predictions and we're happy to roll with any news this positive. They also plan to be processing 80% of spousal sponsorship applications within 12 months and 75% of citizenship applications within 12 months.
With regards to the processing time for temporary residence visas, work permit applications are severely behind right now, largely due to the vast number of Ukrainians arriving through the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel Programme. This was unprecedented and could not have been predicted, but explains why the number of work permit applications is so much higher than anticipated. Since March this year, over 200,000 work permits have been approved for Ukrainians fleeing the war, which is pretty impressive considering the mammoth task the IRCC is currently undertaking.
Here's a quick rundown of the current processing times for the most popular immigration routes to Canada. Federal skilled workers, 26 months. Federal skilled trades, 45 months. Provincial nominee programs, online applications through Express Entry, 16 months. Non-Express Entry, 24 months. Canadian Experience Class, 15 months. Family sponsorship for a spouse or partner living outside Canada, 23 months. Or living inside Canada, 15 months. And citizenship applications, 26 months. There is no updated information for smaller programs or pilot programs. You can check the current processing time for your program on the IRCC website by clicking the link in the description box below.
One final thing to note is that all Canadian immigration applications will be 100% digital, starting from September 23rd this year. Up until now, there's always been the option to complete applications either online or on paper, but in an effort to streamline applications and speed up processing times, most permanent residence applications will be fully online in just over a week's time.
Okay, so that's everything we've got for updated processing times and current Canadian immigration news. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to keep getting quality content every week, hit subscribe before you go, and we'll see you next time.